never shut
Well, hello everyone. I hope you are doing well. I'm getting into the hot tub after this, so I'm doing really well. Always like to show you all because I'm going through all of my t-shirts now, so I know the ones I want to keep and get rid of. This is one I haven't probably worn in 5 years, my Be an Individual shirt. Alrighty, let me get the YouTuber stuff out of the way. Of course, I'd love it if you would if you'd subscribe to the channel. Also, if you'd like the video, but if you want to wait to the end, that would be fine too. But I know all you libertarians out there that are watching, you just aren't followers or joiners. Go ahead and hit subscribe. It's not a violation of the NAP. Okay, so we're all good. So this isn't going to be a terribly long show. And tomorrow, please do tune in, whatever we're going to be calling it now, because I am going to be live streaming the LNC meeting. I'm not going to be doing them all. I'm doing ones in which I have a particular interest. But I know some people will be watching this, have no idea what I'm talking about because they just saw Candace in the headlines. I got a hair that keeps getting in my mouth, and are here for that. So we're going to get right to it. So as you know, I had been going through, I have to be really careful putting something here. For some reason, I have a short in my desk that when I put something too long here, it like bumps the cable and it freezes me. So we've been following the Macron's versus Candace Owens defamation suit. You can check back through my channel. I think this is the 4th show on it. Each time something major happens, I talk about it. It's probably the 3rd show because we covered the complaint, then the motion for extension, then the motion to dismiss. So yeah, this would be the 4th one. So was it last week before maybe? I think it was last week. We did a show on Candace's motion to dismiss, which again was a big shock because remember, she was all, bowing up and being like, I'm not filing a motion to dismiss. Yeah. Okay. We see how long that lasted. So they filed the motion to dismiss, and I actually thought there was some decent grounds on it. Go watch that show. If I remember, I'll stick it up here, but you could easily find it because all the cover art is the same. If you scan through my channel, it will be under live feeds, not a pre-recorded. In response to that motion to dismiss, well, it was described in some news articles as a response. It really isn't, because if you don't know how, and I'm assuming Delaware has these rules. I'm not an attorney. But I'm a paralegal, nearly 40-year paralegal, but not an attorney. But the way it normally goes, and it seems like they're following the same structure. And I haven't seen it different anywhere else, to be honest with you. So Candace filed a motion to dismiss. The Macrons will get to file a response to the motion to dismiss. That will actually be a response. And then after that, and that's usually 14 days. Don't know how long it is in Delaware. And then usually 7 days after that, Owens will be able to file a reply to the response to the motion for summary judgment. It's almost like Robert's rules, where you can go 2 levels deep. So you have the motion, you have your First Amendment and your Second Amendment. That's an easy way. You can't go tertiary. Okay, but they did file an amended complaint that somewhat deals with some of the issues, but not the jurisdictional issues as far as I can tell. But I have it right here. It's big. That's what she said. It's big. I tried to just highlight pages that either look new or I didn't go over in my last show on it, on the complaint. Unfortunately, I went and looked at the Delaware docket, and the public can't get copies of the documents on the Delaware docket. So I found this on the Macron's attorney's website. But apparently, to the court, they turned in a red line copy showing the differences between the complaint, the original complaint, and the amended complaint. I don't have that. So I wasn't able to quickly tell. So I kind of had to eyeball it. And that's what we are going to go over. As always, I do appreciate your comments. Good ones. Well, I'm not saying if you, I don't want to say good ones because then you'll think if I don't put it on the screen, it's bad. But I do put some comments on the screen, particularly super chats, unless they're like insulting to somebody, except for Candace Owens because she's a lunatic. It doesn't mean she's wrong on everything. That's the problem. You could hear something that she says that you might think, well, you know, maybe that's not. So this happened the other day. I'm just going to back up for 1 second just to tell you why um, I think Candace is just a nutbar. So I was watching her Charlie Kirk stuff, and she was like a 2-year-old police body cam arrest footage of the alleged shooter, where he referred to his automobile as a car. And she was using that to show that the text messages were phony and it was written like a Fed because cars in that text message were referred to as vehicles, which is kind of formal speak. And I'm going to be honest with you, those text messages look hinky to me, but I have no idea. But she used that. She goes, see, just 2 years ago, he quite obviously referred to his four-wheeled object of transportation as a car, not a vehicle. Well, then I watched, and I was like, you know, that's a good point, right? And then I watched another video. It's like, yeah, Candace didn't show you the whole video. Earlier in the video, guess what he called his car? A vehicle. Like shit like that just blows any kind of trust. Besides the stuff that's like really, really hinky. So let's go through this amended complaint. All I could say is that these attorneys for the Macrons are making bang, man. They're making a lot of money. But let's just go to the end, though, for 1 second. You might remember in dealing with the first complaint, I mentioned how much money these attorneys have to be making. And I didn't find any like grammatical or spelling errors all the way through the complaint until I got to the last page. In the signature line for one of the attorneys, his first name, Michael, is misspelled. And they obviously are copying and pasting because it's misspelled in the amended complaint. And just so I made sure it just wasn't a weird spelling of Michael, I went to their website to make sure, and yep, sure enough, it's spelled here Michael, and it's misspelled in both of them. So I wrote them. On Friday, and I go, an embarrassing error in your document here. You might want to change that on the next thing. Because these people are getting probably, the really high-powered attorneys get paid like $800 an hour or more. So, like, there's no excuse to be misspelling your own name. And of course, they didn't type it out. Paralegal did, or a legal assistant. Needed some due. Okay, let's go through this. This was filed on September 26th. I went and checked the docket today. Nothing else has been filed since then. Oh, something else I wanted to note. Apparently, and this is true in a lot of jurisdictions, you're allowed to file one amended complaint without leave of court. And I think it has to be before, I don't look up Delaware rules. This is just ones that I'm familiar with. Before the defendant files an answer, but some jurisdictions, I think you get one as a matter of right, even if the defendant has filed an answer. So they didn't have to file a motion for leave to file amended complaint. That was a long way of saying that. Okay. So we're just to the factual summary. And this is what they added, because Candace just can't keep her mouth shut. You're getting sued for defamation. And now she's like, I think it's part of the amended complaint. We'll talk about it, where she's saying she can't afford this lawsuit. she's rich, but she can't afford this lawsuit. Then maybe when you got sued until it was resolved, you keep your trap shut. No, that isn't self-censorship or any of that. It's self-preservation. Your booty just got sued. Shut your pie hole until it gets resolved, no matter how right you think you are. Otherwise, don't cry to me, Argentina, about how you can't afford it. So they added this in the beginning. After the complaint had been filed, it said, Owens has taken it even further. Since the Macrons filed this action on July 23rd, 2025, Owens has unequivocally doubled down. She continued to use her podcast to expand her lies about the Macrons, sell merchandise, and they go, making fun of the Macrons. That sounds so childish, like not on Candace's part, like on theirs. Like, Mom, they made fun of me. I mean, that's just not language an attorney usually use. I think they would have put mocking the Macrons. That just sounds a little bit more highbrow. Making fun of just sounds like a playground. And collect donations based on her quote-unquote reporting on the Macrons. Owens, with full knowledge of this lawsuit, launched a new season of Becoming Brigitte in September 2025, in which she makes absurd claims that Mrs. Macron, as Jean Michel, participated in the Stanford prison experiment, which Owens claims is somehow linked to her later quote-unquote transition. Yeah, that was really quite bizarre. Owens has also gone so far as to suggest that the Macrons are involved in an alleged conspiracy to distract Owens from investigating Charlie Kirk's assassination. Okay, let me see the next one I have dog-eared here. Now, I don't know if this is new, but I don't remember going over this in my first show and it struck my eye. So it says Owens, and it deals with her past, which a lot of people do not know about. I remember when Candace first started, when she went under the moniker Red Pill Black. I don't know how many people have been following her that long. And it says Owens did not always espouse extreme right-wing ideals. She was born in White Plains, New York, and raised in Stamford, Connecticut. Owens graduated from Stamford High School. And is a comment I want to stick up here because this is true. Everyone is using less mature language in America. True. But you'd think in a high-powered legal complaint. I don't know. That just struck me as off-key, in the complaint. Because everything else is so well done. And it says, and she attended the University of Rhode Island before leaving due to financial issues. Following her departure from university, Owens completed an internship at Vogue magazine and was later hired as an administrative assistant at a private equity firm in New York. I think I did go over this, but it's no problem doing it again. In 2015, she left the financial sector to start a marketing agency called Degree 180. Degree 180's website featured a blog that gained notoriety for publishing progressive, anti-conservative, and anti-Trump content, the exact opposite of her current views. And let me stick this up here. Didn't she say there was a sniper underneath Charlie Kirk and shot upward? She said a lot of different things, and she's a lot cagier about it than she was with the Macrons. She doesn't definitively say anything. She just kind of elephant hurls at the wall. But yes, there was a segment in which she discussed that's one of the theories, that the person seen on the roof allegedly was wearing like camo gear and the rifle was different than the one that they found. And then he hid behind this bush and she like circles the bush and all of this. It's very, if you can think of the meme of that guy, with all the red lines, that with the red string. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, you can tell I watch quite a bit of Candace. Anyway, that all changed in 2016 when Owens launched, and this is what people do not remember, socialautopsy.com, a website that aimed to expose individuals responsible for online harassment. At that time, she was a leftist, so she's mostly talking about going against more conservative people, online harassment by publishing their identity. So it was basically a doxing website. The project was widely condemned across the political spectrum, with both conservative and progressive voices expressing concerns over privacy and potential misuse. In retaliation, critics shared Owens' personal information online. Owens attributed the widespread criticism and retaliation efforts to two progressives who had attempted to convince Owens to abandon the project. While Owens was being criticized by those who purportedly shared her beliefs, she received support from prominent figures associated with the far right. I don't remember that part. Owens publicly stated that this was the catalyst for her ideological shift, remarking, "I became a conservative overnight. I would not become a conservative overnight by far-right people supporting me." In 2016, she began expressing support for Donald Trump's presidential run. By 2017, Owens had completely flipped political sides, aggressively ramping up her online criticism of liberal ideology and policies through her YouTube channel. She further amplified her voice and newfound point of view to young conservatives through her role as communications director of Turning Point USA. And then we all know who Turning Point USA is. And again, if you like this kind of deep dive, you're not gonna get this kind of content anywhere else, because, like, too much Tylenol. My mom took too much Tylenol. Throw me a super chat or a super thanks. I'd appreciate it. And it goes on to just some of the controversy she's been involved with, like Kanye West and all of that. Okay, so we went over that in the first show. Again, this one's going to be nowhere as long. Okay, I do not remember this part, but it might have been. So they sent her a retraction demand in December, and it says it explicitly stated that Mrs. Macron is the biological mother of her 3 children, proving that she was born as a woman and has not engaged in identity theft. In her earlier reporting, Owens claimed that Mrs. Macron fathered her 3 children with Brigitte Proba Azier, whom she falsely claimed was the niece of Jean-Louis Azier, the uncle of Mrs. Macron's late ex-husband. Nuttier than a fruitcake, nuttier than a squirrel's breakfast. Because fruitcakes aren't nutty, are they? I don't know. They're nasty. I've never eaten one. Do they have nuts in them? I'd like to know. She accused Jean-Louis of forging the children's birth certificates to hide Mrs. Macron's secret. This is the same it's not Jean-Louis, I think. I can't do French, okay? Whom she claimed was in the wedding photo of Mrs. Macron and her first husband, and who has successfully sued Ray and Roy for defamation. Owens did not repeat these claims in the series because she was doing it in her lead up, but she never retracted the prior false claims. Further, she indicated that the photo of Mrs. Macron, in which she is described as a 36-year-old teacher named Brigitte Azier, is not actually of her, but rather of the fictitious Brigitte Proba Azier. In doing so, Owens recklessly disregarded the fact that the photographed woman in this picture, 1, had the same name that Mrs. Macron did at the time, 2, had the same occupation that Mrs. Macron had at the age of 36, and 3, bears a striking resemblance to a younger version of Mrs. Macron. Owens later admitted this was false, but she never removed the episodes including this false claim. I don't remember this picture being in the last complaint, but maybe it was. When Owens realized her claims about Mrs. Macron's children, i.e. that she fathered her children with the fictitious Brigitte Proba Azier, could not possibly be true, she dropped them, offering no alternative explanation, just a gaping hole. Now, that's such... I believe it's false. And it seems like Candace now agrees it's false. Such a disgusting claim to make. And the fact she just like, oh, la-di-da, moves along. I mean, it says a lot about her lack of character. And in some ways, I actually do admire Candace. Like, she has moxie. She's brave. I will give her that. But she is a barking moonbat. And right here, exactly, she is the female Alex Jones. She just doesn't do all the table pounding and all of that, and is much more attractive. But yes, she is the female Alex Jones. Candace is quite pretty. Okay. She counted on her audience being too captivated or too unquestioning to notice the gap, let alone call her out on it. The reason is clear. Any theory that claims Mrs. Macron is not the mother of her children recklessly disregards the striking resemblance between her and her daughters. Now, I am going to push back on the attorney here. I think the way they worded that didn't really prove anything. Now, Candace has never repeated the claim that she fathered these girls. But if she fathered the girls, which she didn't, she would have a striking resemblance wouldn't disprove that. Children can often resemble a combination of their mother and father, just their father, just their mother. Claiming a resemblance doesn't disprove anything, is what I'm saying. That was a really weak argument on their point. But I'm going to see if you guys can see this picture. My printer kind of messed it up. But there is a really strong resemblance. I mean, these are obviously people who are related. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it too well. Brigitte's in the middle, and those are her two daughters. They look just like her. Okay. I'm going to stick this up here. Yeah, Candace is a grifter, but her hardcore fans have drank the Candace Kool-Aid so hard. Okay. Now again, this is a shorter one, so they go through all the complaints, like we went in the first one. All the counts just reiterate themselves, and I'm just really trying to do the new stuff. Now notice I didn't say anything about the jurisdictional things in the motion to dismiss. They didn't really deal with it. It repeated what they said before, that she can't claim that Delaware is a forum non-convenience because she formed her corporations in Delaware. And this is highfalutin legal language that they used, that she couldn't be surprised that she was hailed into a court of Delaware. And that is very legal speak. But in the motion to dismiss, they dealt with case law talking about certain minimum contacts and things like that. I really wish they had dealt with that. Okay. Hey, listen. I need a super chat or super thanks just for my printer paper and ink. Poor Wayne. Wayne's my husband, for those of you who don't know. I'm like, Wayne, shut the door. No, it wasn't Wayne shut the door. I need to put that clip on do I have that? I don't think I have that clip on my, no, I need that one. I do have.
Yes, Ms. Harlos.
I do have that one. I need Wayne. Shut the door. But anyway, Wayne, we need more printer paper. So here's a second spot. I mean, this is the addition because of her second Becoming Brigitte series. The Macrons filed this action against the defendants, and remember, it's Candace and her two companies. She responds by tripling down. You notice an inconsistency in the beginning. They called it doubling down. Here, they're calling it tripling down. It's a figure of speech. It doesn't really matter, but you should at least be consistent in the wording. I would have picked that up if I was the paralegal writing this. Just saying. And launching season 2 of the series. And when I say paralegal writing it, the attorneys write it, but they dictate it, or they write it and the paralegal whips it into shape and does the proofreading and stuff like that. Okay. Says the Macrons filed their complaint on July 23rd, once again putting defendants on notice of the falsity of their claims and the publicly available evidence disproving it, without missing a beat. Because this is before Charlie Kirk was grossly assassinated, which she's now milking for everything it's worth. But she still needed a cash cow before then. She tripled down and republished season 1 of the series and described its claims as the truth. And there's a screenshot of a tweet where she's saying that. This is funny. Candace always does the "have you stopped beating your wife" type of tactics. For instance, there's that moon landing denier guy who was like harassing those astronauts till finally one of them punched him in his face. And she is like, "You don't react that way if you were telling the truth." Maybe. Or maybe you were reacting that way because after decades and decades of doing something phenomenal, you have these nut bars running around, constantly intruding into your life and harassing you, that you snapped. Isn't that as perfectly logical? Yes. But she said in her tweet about her first season, the Macrons aren't suing journalists. You're not a journalist, you're a commentator. Aren't suing journalists halfway around the world because we lied. You know what else it could be? They're suing you because you lied. In other words, Candace could just as easily say that and saying, "Well, I must be telling the truth because they haven't sued me." That's just exactly how she is. Those are her tactics. People sucked in by it just drives me crazy. And again, Dave put up, if it wasn't for social media, yeah, none of them would have a podcast in a grip. Though they might be on talk radio. Remember, who was that really crazy show? And it wasn't always crazy, and it was on like early in the AM, I think every night. But it would go from like talking about aliens, and then sometimes it would have like alternative political voices on, because I think Harry Brown was on it. Oh crap, what was that show? It was hugely popular, and truckers loved it. If y'all can remember, put it up there. It might come to mind. But they used to do a lot of alien stuff. And it says episode 218 includes Owen. So Candace started doing a lot of episodes where talking about the Macrons was just part of the episode rather than the whole thing. And you'll see they're going to call out a few of them. Episode 218 includes Owen's reaction to this action. She opens the episode by playing a clip from the Gladiator movie and asking her audience, "Are you not entertained?" She repeated again, "Yes, I try to be entertaining. We all try to be entertaining. But being entertaining at falsehoods, like just outrageous falsehoods, said at other people's expense, that's just predatory." No, it wasn't Kim Cormado. I can't remember who the host was, but it was the name of the show that was real popular. I am sure somewhere in my hundreds of episodes, I've said things I thought were true at the time that were not, in fact. Coast to Coast AM. That is it. I got to put this up. Tamu got it. It's still on? So, I hope I described it well. Coast to Coast, that is it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure I've said things in the past I thought were true at the time. It was in good faith, and they turned out not to be true. But to like really go outrageous, like, okay, let me give you an outrageous claim. Those of you who Art Bell, that is Art Bell. Yep, right here, Art Bell and Coast to Coast. Yes, and the truckers loved it. So let me give you a false claim that's going around now. And hey, Donnie, hug your chickens for me. So the Feral LNC member, and it says, Tamu says the host was Art Bell. Now it's George Newry, who I don't know. I knew about it when it was Art Bell or Snoory. Oh, I guess Daniel was joking. Sorry, I'm looking at my comments on the side here. Ecamm doesn't have a plugin where you can put comments live on the screen. They really should, because it's a great program. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the Feral LNC member, where he's like, more than half of the LNC are communists and getting paid by George Soros. Like, that's just an outrageous lie. And to keep repeating it makes you a lunatic libeler. Okay. So it says, Owens repeated her prior false and defamatory claims, calling Mrs. Macron a very goofy man and claiming she has definitely got balls. It says Owens stated that the action was further proof that Brigitte Macron is a man. It reminds me of the Monty Python episode, in the search for the Holy Grail, after the Black Knight got all his limbs chipped off. Running away, are you? Come back here, I'll bite your legs off. Owens repeatedly referred to Mrs. Macron's alleged penis. That's probably something that these attorneys never thought was a phrase that they were ever going to have to put into a complaint, and called her a creepy old man. Now, she certainly was a creepy middle-aged woman going after young Macron. I think that's without dispute. Owens also tried to draw a connection between the television show The White Lotus, a cult in China, and her false and defamatory claims about the Macrons committing incest. The sole basis for this claim is that there was one scene involving incest in The White Lotus season 3. I'm surprised you didn't find a Game of Thrones connection. I mean, there was lots of incest in there. And that season 4 of the show is set to take place in Paris. Well, that proves it. Owens stated her resolve to continue repeating her false and defamatory claims, saying that this series has to become my life. Then season 2 of Becoming Brigitte, where she claims that Brigitte Macron is was involved in somehow an MK Ultra. Says she doesn't walk or sit like a woman. Now, that doesn't mean she's not woman, but she doesn't sit like a woman. She sits like a dude. That doesn't mean I think she's a dude. Some people say some of my mannerisms are more masculine. I'm not a dude. So, but she does sit like a dude. But I know more masked women that sit like dudes and that don't walk real. Now, I got childbearing hips, even though I didn't bear any children. I don't walk like a dude. But more boyishly shaped women, they don't have the same hip sway. Okay, and claims that she's former military because Jean Michel was in the military. Or was it John Michel? John Michel. Don't hold me to these French names. Okay, let's see what else here. Oh, it says that she's part of a criminal syndicate engaged in identity theft, forgery, fraud, abuses of power, and potentially even murder. Okay, I don't think there's much more new here. I'm looking to see if I have any more pages. So I printed all this just to try to find the new stuff, and there was hardly any new stuff. That might be it for the new stuff. Yeah, it was just that she's basically doubling or tripling down. And I did want to bring up, like I did in the beginning, that Michael Farnan's name's still misspelled in the complaint. Candace should get a little bit of a refund. I couldn't find the part in here where I probably just didn't dog-ear the page, but they said how she's now fundraising on the lawsuit and how she's being a persecuted journalist and she can't afford it. So you better buy her merch to keep multi-millionaire Candace afloat. Okay. Okay, baby doll. That's what we're going to do. Carla, she's more than a bit of a nutcase. More than a wee bit. She's the whole bowl of Thanksgiving nuts. Okay. Well, see, this was a short one. I've been dying to get in the hot tub, so that is it. I enjoyed, I don't know if that is the right word, but I hope I'm giving you a little bit more of the in-depth, non-legal, but legal perspective on it. But remember, I am not an attorney and do not purport to be one. And if you hear something online from an actual attorney, believe them. So this is a bit more than the 5-minute blurbs you're going to get from other and I'm going to answer Ned's thing here in a second, from other shows. Ned, yes, I have. I watch all of Candace's shows. And in my little series here, I talk about what I've seen directly on her shows. So I have watched all of them. I've actually watched very little of what other people say, though I've watched some of what other people say. And I've watched The Legal Eagle, which is a really good channel about what he has to say. Okay. And Wayne and I were just watching something from Candace that had just come out on Charlie Kirk, and I have queued up to listen to what I think her latest one called Pretty Little Liars. Ned, she's not credible at all. Go back and watch these shows. I point out some really blatant examples, and you probably weren't here in the beginning. I point out something that she absolutely lied about in the Charlie Kirk thing. And when I first heard the claim on her show, I thought it was credible. And then I did watch someone else's video who pointed out the fuller context. And just that right there should cause you to step back and question. She doesn't always give you the whole story. And that's not to say she's wrong about everything. I do think she's right about some things, and there's some things that are darn right suspicious. But when you call the moon landing fake and gay, I'm not going to take you seriously. And when you say that Brigitte Macron is part of I might be slightly exaggerating here because I don't remember all the various accusations. First, that she was Mr. Macron's father, and then dropped that, and she's part of a satanic MK Ultra Stanford prison experiment, blood drinking, child trafficking, worldwide satanic cult. No, I'm not going to take that seriously. I'm really not. Okay. Tomorrow, but I love you, Ned. You know I love you. I haven't seen you in so long. Have not seen you in so long. Okay. Tomorrow night, join me for live streaming the LNC meeting. And again, I want to say to everyone, the reason why I'm doing this one, I'm not going to be doing all of them. I'm going to give you a little bit of a teaser. Andrew Chatterton is going to be moving to try to rescind the special investigative report against Angela. Now, I want you guys to go back and remember when Angela rammed through the joint fundraising agreement. And it was either me or Todd moved to rescind it. And all the Mises people were throwing a fit, going, it's already been voted on. You're wasting our time. It's dilatory. You're trying to undo something that was done. Yet look at how complete obfuscators they're being over this. What has already been decided, and the resolutions voted on twice, the second time because they didn't like the word deem and they changed it. So that's probably going to be amusing. So I want to watch it for that sheer amusement factor. There's probably some good clips I can get out of it. But also, there is something that is very well-meaning. And if the person who sent this to Pat Ford is watching, I do not mean personal disrespect, but it's a time waster where they want every electronic meeting for every LNC member to give a mini report on what they did the past month. That should be in writing. The secretary's not a stenographer. And with potentially 24 LNC members, that's going to take up half of the meeting. Or I'm not good with math, what's slightly less than half, a third. That's not what these monthly meetings are for. They're special meetings for business that should not be handled by an email ballot in between regular meetings. They're supposed to be limited to 2 hours. While that sounds great in practice, it is a complete and utter waste of time, and it's for people to grandstand. If you want reports on what people are doing, much better, and I'll be saying all this again tomorrow, would be to require them to do a little blurb on the LNC list where it's in writing. They can't grandstand, they can't filibuster, and the secretary can attach it to the minutes. Because what people don't understand, and I didn't do it because I refused to, just not, that when oral reports are given, the secretary's supposed to type it mostly down. Evan's not your frickin' court reporter, and neither was I. So, Natalie, I'm thinking more like 33%. So that'd be a third, right? A third's greater than a fourth. And that was funny what McDonald's were. Was it McDonald's? It was some burger chain that was trying to outdo McDonald's. They offered 1/3 pound hamburgers, but they didn't sell because everyone thought it was less than 1/4. America. Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow for that. There will be a video of a special musical presentation as well. So see you then, 5:30 Mountain, 7:30 Eastern. Okay. Bye-bye.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business, not because they want to